Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Wasim.
Okay, okay. So I hope everyone else who are right now logged in this webinar, they can also hear me. Uh, those who know Galaxy Tech, so maybe they're aware about our company. But for those who are new, let me introduce myself and the company. So myself, Wasim Kazi, and I'm taking care of marketing and communication at Galaxy Tech. Uh, so congratulations who are right now joined this webinar, because right now whatever we will gonna learn, that is definitely something new which is related to food processing industry. Few of you might definitely aware about that thing what is going to be explained by Mr. Goenka, but few of them definitely learn something new, which is right now we, because we already see all those things uh, for that webinar right now, which we're gonna conduct. First, let me introduce my company. We are Galaxy Tech, who are leader in CV manufacturing, industrial systems and separators and filters. We help industries to achieve high quality products via sieving and filtration technology. We cater industries like mineral, plastics, ceramic, glass, pigment, food and beverages, and many more. But today we organize this webinar to understand the food and processing technology, which is not related to sieving and filtration. This is totally different new things, which we want to make learn our visitors as well as our customers and those who really want to learn this industry. For that, we are right now for that we introducing. Let me introduce Mr. Amy Goenka, who is Chief Consulting Engineer of Goenka Consultancy Services. He is electrical engineer and management professional with 25 years of path area in projects experience in manufacturing operations, supply chain, EHS, quality and assurance across top FMCG companies in India. He has been passionate about various food business also. Apart from execution of project, his core strength is in identification of new vendors relevant to for project like civil, PSB, HVAC, electrical, mechanical, firefighting, ELV systems, and many more. So, I share my screen with Mr. Amy Goenka, who is going to start this webinar. So, please, Mr. Amy, you can start now.
Uh, Thank you, Wasim. Thank you so much. And thank you for the introduction. Good day, people who have joined here. I welcome you on behalf of Galaxy and Gaunika's consultancy. This is, as the webinar rightly says, is an introduction to food processing technology and the future food of the world. In this regards, what I intend to do is keep my language as simple as possible so that people understand what we are saying. Those who are from the industry and those who are aware of a lot of industrial nomenclature would understand it, but for the benefit of people who are new and who are interested in understanding these concepts, I have kept the language as simple as possible, and I hope that you do have a lot of insights on the things that will be shared right now. So let me just share my presentation. Before we start with the webinar, I would just like to bring to your notice all the, so to see, the rules, which are very simple, but I would appreciate that you guys understand why I'm saying this. You can just go through it. I don't want to read on this. To start off with, let me introduce myself. Wasim has given my introduction. Yeah, I am a engineer and have been a management professional working with a lot of Indian and foreign MNCs in the food business. I have more than 25 years of experience in this segment and have been working in different uh, positions, different levels across the food industry. I worked with Indian companies like ITC, Marico, and TTK. Apart from this, in 2017, we started with my consultancy for projects in food manufacturing. This is mainly to cater to the food manufacturing industry who want to either start up new plants or existing plants to be scaled up. I have numerous experience in setting up processing, salt plants, atta plants, snack pellets, breadcrumbs, seasoning, cashew, etc. And most important part that is there in this in our firm is the values that we propagate, the value of integrity, quality, and reliability. That also, if when you see our the vision mission, you would see that we value our biggest assets, which are our people, and the same is what we also try and communicate during our projects with the other clients. We work with a lot of ergonomic working principles, which actually indirectly enhances the output of the workforce. Some of the values that we encourage at Gaunikers Consultancies, if you go through this, you'll understand is the environment, health of our people, safety of our people, the culture in which we work, which gives a lot of trust, compliance, be it statutory compliance, be it the compliance of our internal standards or the compliance of our clients, and obviously the quality part of it, which goes undoubtedly as a non what do you say compromisable. So let's start with the thing this of what do we understand as food processing, because there's a lot of understanding issues that people have when they say food processing. Some of them just see processed food when it is said. They see that it is like some ready products which are available in the market and equivalent it to food processing. Yes, that is food processing, but that's not the only thing. Food processing is basically transformation, that is from an agricultural product, which is the raw product or a livestock, into a food. When we say food, it is the edible, it is in edible form. Okay, so some of the each and every stage is a part of the processing. So even cleaning, deshelling, grinding, cutting, cooking, frying, and obviously other complex industrial methods are all part of food processing. What does it do? So it makes the food edible. For example, cashew, unless it is shelled, the nut, unless it is shelled, you cannot eat it. So deshelling is a process that is followed, which makes the food edible. It makes the food more stable. It makes it palatable. It makes it safe. Also gives a lot of variety to the food, because when we cook it in different forms, it gives you different varieties to it, which in turn increases consumers' choice. So to say, the bottom line is all food is processed in some way or the other before it is eaten. Coming to the sectors, which are broadly classification of the sectors in food, uh, the fruit and vegetables, milk products, beer, alcoholic beverages, the meat and poultry, marine products, grain processing, packaged and convenience food, packaged drinks which are non-alcoholic. So these are the broad sectors which fall under the food category. And each sector there's a process which is involved. A different process, a different way of handling, depending on what food we are talking about, which sector we are talking about, and obviously the subsectors and the sub categorization of each of them. Another thing which normally comes to our mind is food preservation. So what is food preservation? Is it same as food processing? Is it different, or is it uh, nothing related with food processing? So when we say preservation, it's a process, okay? And it's a process where it actually prevents the food or vegetables from getting spoiled, which also maybe to preserve the color, taste, or the nutrient values. It is actually make the food last longer in a sense to increase the shelf life of the food. So that's what is food preservation. What does it involve? It involves the pathogenic organisms like bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms to be killed, or whatever is there, not allow it to grow any further. It also sometimes is retarding the oxidation of fats, which is what we call as rancidity in food. So this is what is food preservation is all about. There are many techniques of food preservations, which will see shortly in the coming slides. Not much in details again, because we want to cover a lot of more things in this presentation. So why is food preservation important? Okay, to understand that, let's understand that there are three major types of foods. Something which is called as highly perishable, milk, perishable within a day. Fruits, maybe 2 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Fish, again a day. Vegetables, so something which is less than a week is called as highly perishable. Then we have something which is medium perishable, which like usually a month to 6 months period, and anything above a week we could categorize them in perishables. Like bread we can keep it for more than a week. A cake, maybe a week. Cheese, if preserved is kept under refrigeration or a controlled temperature, we can easily keep it over a week. And then we have the third category, which is the shelf stable products. Very common examples are the grains, pulses, like wheat, rice, pulses, like beans, etc. So, by preserving food, we actually also reduce the wastage that would otherwise happens. Uh, when I say that, it is basically, if it is just kept like that, and it is then you have no other option than to throw it away. But if you preserve it, then we can reduce that wastage, just because doesn't get consumed within the time it is ready to eaten. We can actually preserve it for some more time to be eaten at a later stage. It also helps reach bigger mass of people. We know very well that production of some of the food products happens in one place and consumption happens at a far off place. If we are not able to preserve it and transport it, then we will not be able to cater to those mass of people. So Is food processing and preservation the same? The same question that I asked earlier. Well, food processing is a process, as I told you, of transforming the raw ingredients into food. It can be physical, it can be chemical. Okay. It also slows down or stops the spoilage of food, which is what we call as food preservation. And we also are able to keep up the quality and quality of the food for a longer period. So, in short, what I would say is that food preservation involves food processing, but not all food processing is food preservation. What are the types of food processing that is there? Broadly, food processing is divided into three types. Is what I would say as primary food processing. This is at the time when it is harvested. For example, the agri products, when it just after it is harvested, it cannot be consumed as it is. So some of the things like cleaning, be it drying, threshing, winnowing, maybe second stage a little bit of it is by milling or grinding it. Some things like I told you, shelling it. Some of the processes which happens at a later stage, like mixing, cutting, freezing, filtering, these are all absolutely primary in nature and very very simple processes. They are what is called as the primary food process. And comes the secondary. So what do we do in secondary? The secondary food processing is basically when we do mostly it is all the cooking formats which are there. Okay, be it either by the application of fire or heat, or the removal of heat, which is freezing. So we have steps like roasting, baking, boiling, frying, steaming, even freezing. These are all secondary food process. Then what is tertiary food processing? Tertiary food processings are more complex, more industrial in nature. This is where we do, for example, the retort for the ready to eat foods, or some of the convenience food, like canning of fruits or of juice, defatting, making isolates out of, say, protein isolate or vitamin isolates. So these are complexes. These are called as the tertiary food processing. Let's just understand a little bit of food processing history over here. It's not something that food processing has happened recently. It is something which dates back to prehistoric times. When we say prehistoric times, it even covers our Stone Age onwards. Okay. Why was food processing done, and what type of food processing done? Simple things like cleaning. Then came cooking. People discovered fire. They started cooking, and also there were needs for preservations. Need for preservation was because something like drying some of the food products for the rainy days. Food were required by the warriors and sailors to be carried when they used to take a long voyage or go on a walk a month or two to the next place. That is the reason where there was a requirement for preservation. It also meant that they started cooking with high fat contents, similar to we do uh, Indian paratha. We cook it in high fat. It gets preserved for a longer period. Salt preservation was one of the most common. Drying and salt preservation has been the most common type of preservations in the historic times. It also led to some of the new cooking methods, which because of the limited resources, something which came up like cooking with burning of grass, solar cooking, cooking without utensils, I mean direct cooking, roasting, cooking in shells of coconuts. These were different types of methods that also got developed as the period of our evolution also happened. So what do we call as modern food? If we say that all these were prehistoric in nature and the olden times, then we have something called as modern food processing, which is what I would broadly put it as something that we do industrial ways. Okay. But its foundation was is not right now. It started with the industrial revolution. It started with developing in the 19th and 20th centuries. At that point of time, we had these world wars, so military needs were there. Uh, food needed to be carried in high calories, high protein food needed to be taken for when the military went for wars. So new things started coming up. Like for example, in 1809, there was hermetic bottling that was developed. Canning was developed a year later. Pasteurizing was developed in 1864. So this is how development happened. 20th century, we also saw some of the most developed food processing techniques, mostly in developed countries, because people started also becoming more conscious on the hygiene and the food safety part of it. We started with something like juice concentrate because people were started becoming health conscious. We started with freeze drying. We started with reconstituted foods. We started with retorts. We did spray drying. These were some of the processes are that are used even today. So the other thing that modern food processing did was it also introduced a lot of new things in the food. We started adding artificial sweeteners for preservations. We started adding color for better visual appeal. New preservatives started being introduced. Benzoids, sorbates, nitrates, polyphosphates, citric acids are just a few to be named about. We also started with some ready to eat or ready to cook food, which I was just talking about, the retort food. We started with frozen food. It started becoming very popular. So what the modern food processing, if I have to name it in a sentence or this, then we started marketing it as utilizing the perceived value of time, instant food, instant availability, anytime availability. Those were the things that was there. What are the advantages or disadvantages of food processing? Definitely, there are some advantages, there are disadvantages. What are the advantages or benefits of processing? It removes toxins. It adds to preservations. It is easy to market, distribute because of its packaging. It also increases the consistency. You have a very similar consistency available across the year probably. Seasonal foods were available throughout the year. Highly perishable foods transported long distances. Food made safe to consume and reduce foodborne diseases because if there's any pathogens that get developed, then it becomes unsafe to consume. It also helped in overcoming some of the food shortages. Availability in remote locations, all food available everywhere. Earlier, we could not even think of having some of the foods that we are getting today. Some of the exotic fruits that we get in India today. Importance of it also started improving the taste because, as I said, it was consistent in nature. It helps economy of scales as the it was industrially processed. You had lower cost of productions. You had mechanized farming, for example. That's your food habits taste could be customized. We could have products which are which helps the allergic people. Your habit, for example, you are a vegan, you have a allergy, it could be customized, that we remove some of the ingredients, we change it, we substitute those things. We also have keto diet, maybe if you are having diabetes, then we could customize your product. It also, we have something fortified food that was available, so we could add nutrients if at all there was some nutrients. We could add vitamins, we could add minerals, we could add whatever micronutrients that we want to add. But with all these advantages, there are some disadvantages or drawbacks also. What are the drawbacks? So if you see, when you cook, for example, if you overcook, you decrease the nutrient value of food. You uh, you tend to destroy the vitamin E. Microbial environment in our intestine is also one of the things which is there. So excessive processing destroys all the microbes that is there. So your intestines start becoming more sterile. It destroys the environment. So it's bad for your health. Processing with additives, again, health hazards, dangers of cross contamination. You are processing, so there's one stage, then it goes to the next stage. You're processing one food, the next food. So cross contamination could happen. It could lead to issues. Processed food also includes a lot of trans fats. As I said, you know, it added fats, it added sugar. This trans fats, for example, can lead to high cholesterol, heart diseases. It also gets digested slowly as compared to whole food. So if you eat a whole, say, fruit versus processed fruit, your digestion is slower. Processing is not done properly, it or it semi-processed. It could be more dangerous than eating it raw. So when people started processing and all the new techniques of processing came, it was in a quest to find newer things. One of the things that we heard of were superfoods. So what is superfoods now? Technically, there is nothing called a superfood. There's no official definition of it in none of the regulatory authorities across the world. It's a marketing term by most of the companies. So they market to you that this is a superfood. It has got some health benefit, exceptional nutrient densities. Yes, it has got higher nutrient densities, but that's just the fact that not all foods have equal nutrients. That's all. It doesn't make anything different. So there's nothing called a superfood. In fact, you prohibits the use of term superfood unless you have some very scientific backing of the health claims and things that you do. Otherwise, you could not, even as a marketing word, you cannot use superfoods. Some of them have even gone further to classify superfoods into, sub-classify superfoods into something like superfruits or super grains. And we have heard of this, the all new variants of the goji berry, the hemp seeds, the chia seeds, wheatgrass, quinoa, barley. These are marketed as superfoods, better than our traditional foods. But that's just, let me tell you, these are just marketing terms and marketing strategies. So mankind also started working on further things to food. So they came up something called as GMO. Now, what is GMO? GMO is a short form actually. It's a short form for genetically modified organism. It's not just limited to foods. It is actually a process by which the genetic material of any organism, for that matter, is altered using a genetic engineering technique. A genetic alteration can be natural. We have over the years seen mutations. These are genetic alterations which are natural in nature. We hear a lot in the current pandemic. We hear a lot about the virus getting mutated, the Delta variant, etc. These are natural genetic alterations. But it can also be done precisely into a lab where the genetics, the DNA of the food or any organism for that matter can be changed. One of the things that we started doing was selective breeding. Some of the things which were giving better yield, we started only doing that. This was the foundation of genetic interference. We started interfering into the nature. We started breeding better milk producing cows. We started also doing um, cross breeding of your trees. And G, right now, GMO is persuaded both plants, animals, organism, mammals, everything. So it's not limited only to foods. Let me tell you that. But in case of plants, for example, we have seen that better yields, better resistance to pests are favored. Like example, insect-resistant potato. It was approved for release in US 1995. We have seen some genetically modified crops, but commercially it is limited mostly for cash crops like cotton. In India, we have heard a lot about BT cotton and all. These are all genetically modified. The soybean, maize, canola, these are some of the crops that are genetically modified or and approved. Not everything can be genetically modified, but not everything is approved for production and consumption. One of the reasons being that uncertainty of sustenance in long run is there. Unless you know what happens when you modify a gene, you don't want to get into a difficult times afterwards. So what next? What next after GMO? Are people stopped after that? No. This is just a graph which show just a picture which shows different directions in which people have, and it depends on which side they are looking. For example, people looking for after quality, they look at natural food, local food, seasonal food, ethic food. No. Some of the things who are looking for a everyday life, they look at convenience food, they look at snacks, they look at fast foods, they look at curated foods. Some of the people who use it for enjoyment, they look for gourmet foods, they look for do it yourself foods, best for you, sorry, bless you type of things. So customized, planet related, it's free from certain things, healthy connotations. These are on the this is what people look at in one direction. Some of them are into sustainability. Are we sustainable? Zero wastage, local, those type of so I'm just sharing a few slides on what is looked at as the growth in demand for some of the proteins. Thus, if you see India, China, obviously being the highly populated, the growth is highest. The EU data is not available, but if you see, in it is fairly increasing across with Asia leading the chart, followed by Africa and the other countries later on. This is for milk, for example, from 2000 to 2030. This is poultry, chicken, duck. The increase is even more spreading. What about eggs? Again, India is topping there. And you see a lot of places where egg is would increase. The demand for egg would increase. Demand for mutton, lamb meat, for example. That's the demand. Pork, surprisingly, there's a lot of traction that is coming in India also. Beef, another thing, which is a big surprise. But yes, there's a demand which is forecasted for India. So these are some of the proteins that we see that are increasing in demand, and we are not talking of very far. We are talking about 8 9 years from now. So with this demand, what what is there for future of food for us? Is it something that we are looking at uh, doing differently? Okay, I'll give you some background, a little more statistics and a little more background into that. Okay. In 2019, this is by the UN data. Okay, there is a food insecurity of 26%, and which amounts to about 2 billion people globally. Okay, who are having issues with getting day-to-day food. It's not available to them for various reasons. It could be because it's not cultivated. It could be because there's wastage. It could be many reasons. It's not necessary that it is at one thing. But that's what was 2 years before. So what is it further? By 2050, we expect about 25% more population that we would need to feed from what we are today. A small graph which shows uh, the different continents increase also is there, but by 2100 we have 40% more population on this planet Earth, which means that we would have more people to feed. We would need more resources which is available, and we would also be having lesser land because we are talking about people increase, which would need that they would uh, you know occupy more space on the earth. We are talking about global warming, uh, so a lot of land would also go under the sea. With all these things, some more data that I learned. What is seen as, if we look at 2010 as the base year and we look at 2050, then the food gap in terms of the production, the crop production, which is there for direct human consumption, even animal feed, industrial use, to be used for seeds, etc. The gap is going to be about 56% from what it is today. So I had shown a graph which was a moment back, which showed food insecurity. You see how it has grown from 2014 to 2019. This 16.2 and 9.7 in 2019 is what, this is a percentage. So this both together is what is the total percentage that would be having food insecurity in, which is already seen as a graph, and this is showing a increasing trend, both the moderate food insecurity as well as severe food insecurity. Some of the main reasons for food insecurity is wastage. We all know, and it's almost like a thumb rule now, that 30% of the food that is grown is wasted. Why is it wasted? It could be because of overproduction in some places where consumption is not there. It could also be because of the processing that we do. When we process food, we also add some wastage into it, because when we do cleaning, when we do cutting, chopping, there's some wastage that is generated, and then at the end, the processed food, uh, we know that there are countries where the food is just thrown away. So this all put together amounts to about 30% of what is produced. It also include this 30% also includes food which is wasted because of spoilage. Coming to one very astonishing figures which is there, is that meat industry, for example, is highly caloric conversion inefficient. What do you mean by it? What do you mean by caloric conversion inefficiency? It means that how much calories is required to produce 1 calorie of meat, for example. If I have to produce, if I have to produce poultry, for example, then I have to, for every 100 grams which goes into the caloric this, only 87 is wasted, and 13% is what we get at the end of it. For pork and beef, if it is even worse. Pork 91 is wasted, 9% is the efficiency. Beef 3% is the efficiency. Highly atrocious. So what that means? Does it mean that plant-based diet is better? Yes, definitely. We have just plotted against the environmental impact also and the health impact part of it. If you see on the left hand side bottom quadrant, you see all your fruits and vegetables which are there. What do you see on the, and that's what is low on the health impact, and it is low on the environment. Whereas what you see on the right top quadrant is what is processed meat, unprocessed meat, which is high on environmental impact as well as health impact. So with this, how do you think the world is preparing for the future? Are we prepared? Are we not yet prepared? What is it? These are some of the questions that come to your mind when probably you have seen some of the numbers for the first time. Some of you may be aware of these numbers. So it definitely needs to be thought on. And if I go back to the chart which showed us a different directions in which people are looking at, sustainability was one of the bigger branch of the thought process. Sustainability is important. As I said, world population is increasing. We don't have too much control over it, but across the region it's increasing. Industrialization is increasing. So world population, what does it do? It actually demands more food. Also, it reduces the land availability. Industrialization again would reduce some of the land availability for agriculture or livestock um, required. This is what gets reduced. So land usage for crop or livestock is reducing day by day. If you see the consumption pattern, we are talking about 40% increase in population by 2050. We are talking about 26% increase in the food gap. So you see the difference. With only 40% increase in population, the food gap is increasing by 56%. And surprisingly, this 40% increase in population is bringing 70% increase in the meat demand, which means that the rate of need of meat is higher than the rate of the growth of population. So now this is a concept which I would like to tell you, which is called as smart proteins. And that is what is also looked as a way forward. So what is smart proteins? They are also called as alternate proteins. So these are food products which are reliable and predictable substitute. They are not the same. This is a substitute, but a reliable substitute of the actual protein. The consumption, and this substitutes the consumption of animal derived meat, egg, dairy. And why is it called smart protein? I'll explain that. Okay. But it is also important is that they perfectly replicate all your sensory cultural experience of the protein which is there. It also gives you a lot of other advantages in the supply chain for producers. Uh, if in India we have seen some soya nuggets and all, these are maybe I would say somewhere in between the real protein and smart protein. But these are just textured proteins. They don't give you any uh, replication for the any product. It's a product in its own. Okay, so we have seen some soybean based nuggets. We have also seen some mock meats that existed for a long time now, and it was aimed at providing consumers with an alternate to animal source food. Uh, I remember soya nuggets being called as veg chicken, but it never tasted like chicken if cooked in itself. So smart proteins are basically categorized into three types, and this is based on the production, the cost, infrastructure. Those are the factors by which it, and obviously the process. They are totally different process. So there's something called as plant-based protein. So when we say it's a plant-based protein, or fermentation or cultivated meat, what does they mean? Let me take you down. The plant-based proteins are basically produced from the plant protein. Examples are soya protein, pea protein, but it is meat. It is not vegetables. Okay? This is a solution for future need of better calories and conversion yields of proteins. It's not simple. The complex this process that goes into it, but the look, the taste, cooks absolutely like your regular meat, with all compositions equivalent to animal meat, which is in terms of protein or fat or minerals, or even the water content. In fact, it is sometimes called as a vegan meat because it comes from plant based, and it is a. We have seen some ads by some big giant burger companies saying uh, that they have vegetable meat available in their burgers. How does that work? Is it just taking plant some of the plant protein and converting into it? Will not help. If you want to really do sustainability based on plant-based meat, then it has to be optimized at each level. The crop optimization has to happen, which means that sourcing of crop has to be done properly. We have to make sure that the crop is available in abundance. We have to make sure that the crop yields are optimized, increase in the yields. Then you have to make sure that the raw materials derived in terms of, because you can't use it straight away, it has to be converted into isolates. So the raw material is made into standard isolates, and which is standardization and optimization of the raw material. And then obviously the process part of it, which is you have a correct mix of ingredients, you optimize the process, you get the right texture. You can make chicken, you can make beef, you can make with the same isolate. There's no difference in the isolate. You use the same protein isolate. It tastes, smells, everything just the way the normal meat is. I would just share a slide on what are the different things that are looked at when you look at a source of the protein. What is the so you look at what is the protein concentrate, what is the digestibility score, what is the allergen risk, commercially how well they are placed, whether it gives a good flavor or a flavor or whatever functionality wise, cost of production, that is per kg of protein, and obviously the global volume, whether availability, abundance, etc. is there. So this is a chart which will give you a good idea about it. The next step which I was talking about is fermentation. Now fermentation is not something which is new to us. We have been fermenting food for long. It is basically a cultivation of microbial species for either wholesale biomass or a valuable fraction out of that. And it is something which is standardized in different fields. For example, 90% of our cheese today is fermented. It's not an extract from the calf stomach. But when we talk about fermentation for meat, that's a relative concept. It's not something which is very old. That's something which is new, because here we are talking about precision fermentation. It's not just keeping it like a curd, keep it overnight and it will happen. This is precision fermentation. Exact level of fermentation has to be done. Specific functional ingredients have to be produced. And uh, again, this is mainly on plant origin ingredients, it's not animal ingredients. The third part which I was talking about is what is cultured or cultivated meat. Now, what is this? This is slightly different from the other two that we talked about. This is actually cultured from actual meat. That the advantage of this is that you take a cell out of a meat, of actual meat. So if you want to culture, say, chicken, you take a cell out of the hen or the chicken, and it is cultured in a lab environment. Obviously, for a commercial, this it would be industrial, but it's a controlled environment, and the animal muscle cell is cultured in a controlled this to develop the meat. It would replicate it to the core, the original meat. There is absolutely no difference between. The advantage also of this cultured meat is that we were talking about the caloric inefficiency, conversion inefficiency. Here it doesn't matter, because here we don't actually feed the livestock. We don't do anything. We don't kill the animal. So with all those benefits, you still get a product which is absolutely same and uh, factory made meat. It creates a beautiful 3D structure of the original meat structure. So as I explained, the three steps: cell is taken from the animal, cultured in a bioreactor where cell proliferation takes place, and the change in culture condition leads to different between, say, muscle, fat, tissues, etc. It is important that when we say smart proteins, it has improved in input efficiencies. So, for example, if we are talking about beef, it's about 15.9 times cultured meat is efficient over conventional meat. 5.8 times for pork, 3.5 times for chicken. It is right now not very cost competitive, but yes, at right now probably this number is quite changing, but it's around 2.6 dollars per pound of product which is there. So cultivated meat is not very cost efficient, but with the technology improving, with the scale improving, this would definitely come down and would come at par or even lower from the conventional meat processing. But one of the important things is it reduces the carbon footprint. As I was talking about, the inefficiency being reduced and the environmental impact. So it would reduce by the most efficient meat is the poultry. Even there, it would reduce by 17 more percent. Carbon footprint in beef would improve to 92%. Land usage, you don't need big farms to have all this livestock. You will have a reduction in 63% for chicken, 95% for beef. We could also be coming to a stage where we don't have a fully plant-based product. We have or a fully cultivated product. We might end up having some hybrids in the making. So some partially converted, partially cultured, and hybrid, because there are limitations to plant-based meat that is produced, because it's not only about just the taste, it's all about the full experience of the product. Some of the things that are happening globally, for example, Singapore, there's a 30 by 30 vision, which where there is a clear cut inclusion of smart proteins. It is the world's first cultivated meat is approved by the regulatory approvals. Smart protein and innovation center is opened in Singapore. USFDA, for example, has got some agencies where inter agencies where they are looking at all the pre-markets, harvest, inspection, labeling. The first stage towards approving things. EU is funding smart protein projects. Israel is also having a Israel Innovation Authority, which is funding emerging smart proteins. About $100 million the federal government has invested in plant protein processing in Canada. This is the world over. What is happening in India? What stage are we? In India, if you look at the curve of this, then we are at a early adapter stage. Innovators have come. We have quite a few companies who are looking at launching or almost ready with some products. Some of them have already launched some products. So we are into the early adapters stage. New entrants are interested. Big pie that is there. Everybody is looking for a share in the pie. The target group in India, 18 to 44 years, mid income, high income group, probably an education of bachelor's degree and above, and people living in tier 1, tier 2 cities who are either meat eaters or ready to try plant based meat and develop the taste. These are some of the clippings that you would see in the papers very recently, as recent as maybe May 2021. What are the alternatives? India could lead the global. India getting exclusive smart protein funds, plant-based lab, Indian opportunities. So many things that is happening in India too, and that's what I am actually leaving you guys with. Uh, a food for thought on how do you perceive it, what do you want to do about it. Some of my connects, in case you need any more assistance in doing anything, you could visit my website. My number is over here. You could email me. If you go to my website, you could connect me into all the other things, which is your Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, whatever. Yeah. So I think we'll open the Q&A. I hope I'm not shooting too much on time. Yeah. So I have a few questions here. Let me go through them. Okay. One question from Manoj Krishnan. It says, "What about the shelf life of these? Is it? It is very similar to what we have today. The current options. It is a replacement of the current options. The shelf life, again, uh, to answer you precisely, it depends on what is it processed. For example, is it just pure meat? Yes, it's the same shelf life that is there right now. But if you probably take the meat and produce something like a curry or a biryani and then retort it, it would be the same 1 year or 1.5 year that we are talking about. Interesting review of food engineers responsibility and challenging. Okay, thank you, Dom. What maintain in floor in is a balance between food production, energy basis agriculture. Sorry, Dong, I could not understand your question. What responsibility in floor engineering is a balance between food production, energy basis? I'm sorry, I could not understand that. If you could rephrase it and send it to me, maybe I can ask that. In India, which companies are working on plant-based meat? There are many. You have heard of Green Dot, Good Dot, then Beyond Meat. So there are many companies which are there. Some of them are in the making. Some of them have launched, as I was saying. If you read the article, which says meet the alternatives. You could get in touch with me. I could probably give you some of the references if you need anything. But uh, I according to my this, about six to seven companies are already in India who are working on plant-based meat. They are in different uh, stages. Food engineering. So, what would be the future of artificial meat industry globally? Yes, globally, Ravi Kulkarni is asking this question. Ravi, globally, meat industry, which is the artificial meat, is much beyond what is there in India. There is a products are available in developed countries like the US, where you have ready products which are served to you in a restaurant, or there are products which are already there, which are in packaged form. Uh, Raw meat is not generally an thing which is given. That is also because if you don't take care while processing I mean, while cooking the artificial meat, you could actually have a very bad experience into it. So most of the companies don't want to take that chances. So, if plant-based food is the future to save the ecosystem, will it be cost effective? I think I've already answered that. Right now, no. But with the scale and with the advancement, yes, it is going to be cost effective. Especially when you consider the savings that it does on the footprint, the carbon footprint, or the land usage. Yes, it is going to be much more cost effective. And still big companies are not stepping into it. I don't know why you think that big companies are not. There are so many startups which are now coming into it. Uh, it's a requirement which is increasing. So that's something which is there. As I shown you, in India we are into the early adopter stage. Uh, yes, once we cross that hump, we would have many people coming into it. But those are called as laggers or late adopters, which generally some of the big companies sometimes want to be, just to make sure that the market is developed before they come in. Does plant-based meat fall in processed food meat category? Yes, it would obviously fall under this Zusha. Yes, it would definitely fall under the processed food category. Manoj, again, any methods to identify, differentiate plant-based meat from current meat? Uh, though not exactly, unless you get into the DNA part of it, or do some the lab analysis on it, you would not understand. Currently, it's not. You might still be able to differentiate it because we are not at 100% of the closeness to which it is. So some of the things may you might find it a difference in taste or something like that. But otherwise, if I'm talking about theoretically, unless it's tested in a lab, no, you will not be able to find it. Does India allow GMO? What documentation would be required for approval, in your opinion? Yes, some of the cash crops like cotton and all, India does allow GMO, but there are a lot of restrictions for GMO in India. But it's slowly opening. Um, so, uh, as far as documentation required for approvals, um, ma'am, it depends on what type of approvals you are looking for. If you're looking at just using it as an ingredient, it's a different approvals that are required. If you're looking at using it uh, for direct consumptions, it's a much difficult and long process. Thank you. What should be the balance of production in advanced food engineering vis-a-vis energy product producing crops? Okay, thanks, Doc, for this. Yes, there is a balance in production that would be required, because we are not talking about replacing everything with the new technologies or the new products. We are talking about having both of them synergic to each other and working in tandem. So we are not talking about a full replacement, 100% replacements. Indian company on plan. Good dot Udaipur based company is working with P based. Yes, yes, Victor. I already mentioned good dot. Thanks. I think that's all that is there on the questions. You didn't mention the need for energy efficiency in productions. I did mention a little bit on it, Dong. I did mention that we need to optimize the food production process, but it would be optimization of the energy and the caloric optimization right from the crop till the end use of it. Yeah. Is there anything else? If you have any specific thing, Dong, you could. I hope I'm pronouncing the name properly. You could just write in to me, and I would be glad to share or answer your queries. Any specific queries. So once the plant-based, this is by Manoj. Plant-based meat becomes cheaper in global level, then there will be a risk to a balanced environmental system. I would not say that there would be a misbalance. The reason being that I just mentioned that we are not talking about only um, you know replacing everything into the new formats. The traditional formats would continue, but the additional demand would be catered by the uh, more processed alternatives. You would still have people who would be far away from processed industries. You would still have farms. You would still have uh, meat available from the farm as meat. It is not a replacement. It cannot be a replacement. It's like saying that when we have got nuclear energy, which is to a large extent now cost effective, is all other forms of energy conversion change removed or stopped? No, it is not. It is not going to be a straight replacement. I hope I answer you, Manoj. Thank you, Bitter. Uh, just a comment on that we cannot complete, please. Omega 3 fatty acid. Yes. As I was saying, when we are talking about plant-based this, it would be a right mix of the proteins, the carbohydrates, fibers, and the micronutrients. So it would be a good replacement of animals. And since it is processed in a factory or a controlled environment, controlling the micronutrients is not something which is an impossible task. And again, I would just make a comment to all of it. This is what I'm saying is a glimpses to the future. This is not what is present. So there are many things that are going to be changing. Lot of people working on it. uh, I have not touched upon the investments that companies that in India or outside have made, but it's billions of rupees. For example, I think 2020 itself, we have close to about 300 billion USD across the globe, which are directly or indirectly into the smart protein sector. What incentives, if any, there by Indian government focusing on smart foods? Uh, no, we don't have any specific incentives for any smart foods in Indian by the Indian government right now. But overall, for food industries, there are some incentives which are available, and if it is a startup with some innovative things, yes, there are many incentives which are available, but it is not specific to smart foods. How much demand of plant-based meat in India currently? Uh, See, contrary to our understanding, India 70% of our population is actually meat eating, meat or poultry or marine. 70% of our population is what is meat eating in India. So that being there, specific to plant-based meat, it's still uh, a lot long way to go because of the understanding from the industry and adaptation from the people is what is required. Not I don't have a number for it right now, but people, for example, I've mentioned some of the uh, companies that are already there in India. You could see that people are trying it out. Some of the products are being liked out, and that's the way it is. Devansh, sir, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Devansh. I think I could take another question at the most because of the time constraint. So if there's anything, there must be an incentive in protein-rich countries to be incentivized to reduce caloric intake. Can this be envisaged? Yes. The current government in the stage in which the government is in India, they are looking at some of the newer fields, and we could definitely. It's not an impossible thing. We could definitely think that government may come up with some incentives for just to give you a small thing dong is that though India produces a lot of proteins, but for the present usage of plant-based meat, the isolate protein isolate is not produced in India. It comes mostly from the European countries. It's all imported. We export proteins and then get back the isolates. So that's the sad stage in which we are today. But yeah, with lot of people coming up as startups, lot of things will change. We would definitely have some back end industries which would start getting developed as we progress on the demand of it. Till now there was not much demand, so there was not no back end support in India available. Yeah, that's it. I think we should uh, close the Q&A, Vasim.
Sure, sir. Thank you, everybody, for
Yeah, thank
participating
you
in
all.
question and answer session. I hope you okay. I hope you all like the webinar, and maybe some of you definitely learn new things from Mr. Amy. And if you still have any questions in your mind, so you can drop an email to him directly, or us at Galaxy Civtech. So we can share your question to Mr. Remy, or you can directly share your questions to him. Both the way it will work, and he will give you the answer whatever you have in your mind. And thank you, Mr. Goenka,
Thank you. I have
for
just shared my
for
email in
giving
the
this
chat box.
good knowledge with us. Please note down, everyone. There is an email mentioned in the chat box, so you guys can communicate with him in future time, and whenever you need or any question regarding the subject, so you can directly ask them. uh, and thank you everyone for attending this webinar. We are glad to have you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you very much for taking our time out in the in. We had to keep it in this time zone so that people from outside India could also join us. And thank you for everybody for joining the webinar. And if you have got queries, you could either contact me on my email, or you could even give me a call. My details are available on my website, and email is already shared with you guys. Thank you.
Okay, guys. So we are going off. Uh, do let us know how you like this webinar and what is your experience. Please share with us. Thank you. You will, or everybody, you will find our email over there. You can write down. I'm just mentioning my email over here. You can write down your experience over here and whatever things you like or what future experience in future what kind of new webinar or any knowledge sharing session you want from us. Just let me know on this email and we will definitely arrange this same kind of thing for you. So thank you very much everybody. We are leaving and that's all. That's all from our side. Thank you.